All right, ReVibe Nation, what is up? ReVibe Ray here, coming live from the nation's capital. Well, right outside the nation's capital. But it is great to be back with you guys. Everybody out there in ReVibe Nation, thank you so much. This episode is for you. Obviously, you guys are well aware of what the past 6 months, 7 months, but let alone the past several years has been for myself and my family. So this episode is for you. Thank you so much. I'm very, very excited for our session today. As a lot of you are aware, for the past 6 months, I've been incarcerated in federal prison on January 6 charges. But I sit here before you as a free man on a full and unconditional presidential pardon from President Trump. My family and I are grateful for that. And today I have two of some of my favorite people. I can honestly say that who's going to be on with us to talk about J6 and talk about their experiences. One, as a J6er who was at the protest as well, and then another awesome lady who was big in the advocacy network and really helped with myself and others get released and back into society safely without any issues. So we're going to bring them on here in a second. And like I said, guys, I'm truly grateful. I'm thankful to God and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for this moment to be able to speak with you guys. Again, I've missed you guys, and thank you for all of the love and support that you have shown my family and I. Obviously, Jess and the kids are elated to be reunited. So it means a great deal. Before I move into our guest today, real quick, our episode today is sponsored by the Point Sharpening. Thank you, Nick, for all your efforts. Nick runs a knife sharpening business, servicing everybody here in Northern Virginia. So if you need your knives sharpened or anything else, please, links will be provided below to check him out. Nick, thank you so much. I love you, brother. We really appreciate it. So again, guys, just happy to be back with you. And without further ado, I'm going to bring in our guest, Aiden Billiard, fellow J6er, who also was incarcerated with me in Pennsylvania. I've grown to admire this young man, great future ahead of him. He's going to speak on kind of his future endeavors and his experience through all that. And then we also have the wonderful Tina McCloy, who has been spearing the efforts out there in the advocacy realm of the J6 spectrum and was big and intricate in terms of my release and getting back home to my family. So we're going to hear a lot from her. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring them onto the stage. And we are live. Tina, Aiden, can you hear
Yes,
me? Can you
I
hear
can
me
hear
okay?
you. Yep,
I can, yeah.
All right,
Can you hear me?
fantastic. I got
okay,
you
good.
both. So folks, it is awesome to have you guys. Aiden, obviously, our connection is surreal. I appreciate you coming on today. Tina, we're excited to hear
Of
from you
course.
as well. Thank you so much for joining the Revive Nation podcast. This is our first episode postpartum. So we are excited and ready to let it rip. So let's go ahead and jump in, guys. So obviously this has been quite the experience for all of us. I can surely say that. I guess where I would like to start is I've already kind of privied in my intro where you guys are coming from, but I think let's go ahead and start with you, Aiden. If you could just give
Sure.
a quick intro, um, give your experience at the J6 protest that day, and then kind of where, what has gotten you up to this point today, and then we're going to touch back on your future endeavors, which I'm super excited to talk about. I'm so happy for you. But if you could just take it for a couple minutes in terms of, kind of what your experience was shortly that day, and then obviously through your incarceration period, and then leading up to us walking out of that door with Tina. If you could just take a couple minutes to chat on that, that
Right.
would be great.
So I heard about January 6th all over social media.
right? I had gone to some like Stop the Steal protests before. Um, obviously, I voted for Trump, and I saw the evidence that it was that there was election tampering, right? Um, so I went. I saw him speak. I went by myself, right? I had people that were going, but I felt like it was something that I would have experienced better myself. So I went. I saw him speak, and then he said, go to the Capitol, right? Um, so I arrived at the Capitol maybe like 11, 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Um, and immediately, I saw the violence that was happening. I saw that the police were, you know, not just not just doing their jobs, right? Um, I think they were out of hand, right? So it was a few hours of standing around, really, just
Mhm.
seeing what was happening. Um, eventually, um, you know, Ashley Babbitt was shot, right? At that point, everything changed, right? And I made weapons were being passed around in the crowd, and I used pepper spray against a police officer. I broke a window. Um, all of that happened, right? Um, at some point, like 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, everyone was routed,
Right,
right?
right,
People were going home. At that point, I mean, the National Guard came in. The sun was setting. People were leaving, and it was surreal. It was surreal. Um, After that, I really fell out of politics, right?
right,
Because it was a complete loss, right? And um I realized that I kind of fell into like a certain kind of like pessimism about politics, right? Saying that I'd shown up to do the right thing. Things that had gotten out of hand, of course, but I showed up to do what in my heart was the right thing, and it didn't matter, right?
right.
So I fell out of politics, and then afterward, I went to the military. I signed up for the Air Force, and I was 5 weeks into basic training when the FBI came. They interviewed me, and eventually I got discharged. Right. Um, so I go home, and 2 days after I got home, there was, of course, like they indicted me while I was away, and I had to make my first appearance. Right. They indicted me on 8 counts. Right. So some felonies, some misdemeanors. Um, and at that point, some of them carried a maximum penalty of 20 years. I didn't have a plea agreement. I really didn't have any idea what how bad it could actually get.
Right.
I was hoping obviously for maybe some probation. It's illegal to pepper spray police officers, and I understood that. I understood. I take full accountability for what happened.
Right.
Um, so so that happened, and then I was on a supervised release for 11 months. I was working. I tried to go to school. Um, that was probably like the most stressful period of my
Right.
life, right? I mean, even more so than the doing the actual time, right? Was feeling like you were um on a ship that was sinking. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't obviously, I couldn't do anything. You know. I knew it eventually I was going to prison, but I had no experience with the whole process. So eventually, I pled guilty, and that day they arrested me. Right. Um, I was looking at 46 to 57 months. Um, they put me in a county jail in Alexandria, Virginia. I was sentenced. while I was in there to 40 months. I pled guilty to assault, the assault felony. So um, I did some time in D.C. over a weekend. They then moved me to Allenwood. I did time in the USP, and then eventually they put me on the compound in Allenwood Low. Right, I was there for 20 months, almost 2 years. Right. Um, yeah. So that was my experience. Yeah.
And it's crazy to hear because and it's also so important why transparency out of this situation is key, right? So that's what
Yeah.
we're
hundred
pushing
percent.
for right now, throughout our circle, is to get the transparency because Aiden, like I know, your story that day did not have to happen. And that's
Right.
what
No, of course
is
not.
um is so frustrating because a lot of lives ruined over the
Yeah.
a lack of accountability, transparency, the neglect,
Right.
and the just sheer intent of what I believe was entrapment by our federal government during this day. And I got to be straight with you. I'm a security professional. I've been at this for a long time. And we know that the type of protective barriers, the type of people that you need in order to harness millions coming in to
Weren't there.
Washington D.C.
They weren't there. Yeah.
It's just unfortunate that they took this route, and a lot of things could have been prevented that day, especially for good. People like yourself, and especially young people like yourself, who have a lot going for them and a great future. And this is why it's important to keep stressing that message. Aiden, I got one more question for you. Now that you're on the other side of this, and in retrospect, knowing that this could have been prevented, would you say that um, your circumstances and with Ashley Babbitt and with the rubber bullets being shot into the crowd, I'm sure you would have taken things a totally different way, right?
I mean, I, I was maced 3 times. I was tear
Wow,
gassed 3 times.
wow,
I witnessed, things that I never would have imagined. You
right,
know what I mean? I'm not a violent person. I went there without any intent to
right,
do violence. I was part of a group. I didn't go there thinking I was overthrowing the government.
right.
What I thought when I went there was in protecting my country. You know what I mean? And it's simple as that. I think you know we as Americans we have a right to maintain our democratic integrity, right? The integrity of our elections. We need freedom of speech, freedom of expression, um, and seeing how like all these ideas that I believed in so strongly didn't actually matter.
Right.
Um, that was it. It really changed my perspective for sure.
Right. And we all saw, election night, everybody went to bed thinking one thing, all right, Trump
Exactly.
has
Yeah.
this in the bag, it's over with, and he's good to go. And then we find out 3, 4 in the morning, swing states, did what they did. And we all saw it. And, it's unfortunate that our, mainstream media literally was, going along with it too. And we saw the numbers
Right.
change. We saw everything we saw. That was important for me, definitely from a
Hmm.
journalistic standpoint, to hear what Trump had to say that day, and results of that election. I mean, it
Right.
insults the intelligence of the American populace for what we saw on election night that day. And I thought it was important to hear Donald Trump out. And even in that
Right.
moment, he could have went about things a totally different way, but the man humbled himself and took this. I know I wouldn't have. I tell you that for certain.
Mhm.
It would have been it would have been a totally different thing if Ray was president. But nonetheless, we find a lot of Americans, 2,000 some odd Americans, targeted by what we're now seeing in the news of a corrupt FBI, corrupt DOJ, and other agencies that were involved that day. We're seeing a lot of that news roll out. And I'll say for myself that as great as everything is to be pardoned and to be free and to have this scrub from the record, in a sense, it doesn't scrub the experience, and it doesn't scrub the reality that we had a government that did something very nefarious to a lot of people. And it speaks to an even larger conversation, which I'll definitely be talking on later, is how long has this abuse from the FBI, from the DOJ been going on? And so we have a lot of work ahead of us, and hopefully Pam Bondi and Cash Patel can rid our government apparatus of this of kind of filth. So nonetheless, we go through this experience, and as my experience was a little different from yours, Aiden, you still see um, the grotesque abuse and lies from the government apparatus through all this, which is very unfortunate, especially from Congress, which is also unfortunate because we hire these people to go in there and do a job on behalf of the people. But when it came down to it, they were virtually silent when it came to us in particular. So that was unfortunate to see, and we understand why a lot of them took that because they knew, and that's what it boils down to. And that's why it's so important for individuals like you, Tina, who've been in the fight and witnessing all of this from the
Yeah.
outside. Aiden and I are kind of in the thick of things, and just our heads are spinning. I get arrested at my job. I lose out on so much
Mhm.
that I have going for myself as a family man, as a business owner. You lose out on a lot going through situations
Yeah.
like this. And Tina, my situation personally. So it's very hard to listen to a government apparatus try to explain these things when virtually we're there to utilize our First Amendment rights to a situation that we obviously could see was had malfeasance in the election. So nonetheless, we get to this point where we have great people like you, Tina, and your team at Lycoming County Patriots who did a phenomenal job, kind of in the background, the unsung heroes of J6 is what I believe you guys are.
Mhm.
And watching this and tracking everything, tracking all the cases, seeing everything that's going on, you guys did a phenomenal job, not only prior to picking Aiden and myself up from Allenwood, but just even after that, making sure we got home, making sure everything was Coco Steady. You are a blessing. You are a godsend. There is no doubt about
Thank
that.
you.
So, Tina, obviously, knowing my situation, hearing what Aiden just said, first, if you want to just respond to Aiden's experience, and then if you could pick up from where your advocacy work started, getting involved, your aspirations behind it, and kind of what got you up to, pulling us out of Allenwood that cold night. That would be great to hear from
Yeah.
you, ma'am.
Well, one thing I want to comment about, well, first of all, thanks for having me on today, Ray. This is first podcast I've ever done, so I'm just trusting God that it'll go well. But one thing I wanted
Yeah,
to
it's important to hear your story. It's important to me.
comment on what Aiden said was, I mean, he got charged with assaulting an officer, but in so many cases, the actions were provoked. You said you got sprayed in the face with mace 3 times and pepper sprayed 3 times, and I would be willing to bet that you didn't use your mace until after that happened. And from my
Yeah,
perspective, that's self-defense. That's not an assault. You're trying to protect yourself from being assaulted. And
right.
so many of you guys were in that situation where you either protecting yourself or protecting the undefendable, elderly women and children
Right.
and women who are being attacked and pushed to the ground and beaten. Is just in your DNA to rise up and protect the helpless. And you all,
And let's not forget, protesters died that day, Tina.
four,
This is not some
four,
joke
Yeah.
or
four
some,
died that
like
day.
people
Ashley
died that
Babbitt,
day.
um, Roseanne Boyland, Philip. Oh, I don't remember their last names. Philip and Kevin. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't remember their last names.
Okay.
And then there was an officer who did die a couple days later from a stroke. Was not related to J6, and of course the narrative was
Right.
put out there that that 5 officers were killed, hundreds are wounded. And so they used that as a basis for justifying calling y'all domestic terrorists. And that lie was perpetuated all the way up
Right.
through maybe even J6 this
Yep.
year, that it was perpetuated and said from the podium that there were 5 officers that were
Hmm.
killed. And you all have paid a really, really heavy price for that lie that was put out there and taken forward for 4 years. And it's just it goes back on the administration that we had. And I just really pray that at some point those who felt it necessary to put that out there will be held accountable. So, but from my,
Absolutely, and and we're calling for it, Tina, and I think with the at least so far with Pam Bondi, I think she's gonna take it there. I think Cash Patel's gonna take it there. So we're right there with you because
yeah,
if not, it's all for naught if we don't have
that's right.
accountability from
Yeah.
our elected officials. Tina, would you mind pick up right where you got involved? What kind
Okay.
of inspired you? How did you get going with
Well,
this?
I'll have to go back 4 years to right after the rally. I had to work, probably fortunately, um, because there would have been a good possibility that I probably would have been in DC that day, um, because I really felt the election was stolen. I saw the numbers switch out from 2 a.m. in Pennsylvania till 6 a.m. and all of a sudden there was, I don't know, 400,000 votes that sort of jumped from one party to the other, and you just don't do that without some help. And
Right.
so like so many other patriots and people who love this country, I knew it was stolen, except for the numbers really couldn't prove it, but I knew that at some point in some time that all the evidence would be out there, and it is. It's unfortunate that judges who have had it put in front of them refuse to review it, and then they turn around and say there's no evidence. And so that needs to be
Right.
corrected. And we just have to find one judge that's willing to look at all the evidence and you know bring everything forward and hold those accountable who really need to be held accountable. So saying all that, so I'll go back 4 years after the rally, and I wasn't really, and I kind of humbly say this, I wasn't really aware of the degree of weaponization of the judicial system that had happened. I wasn't aware that a lot of you guys had already been arrested, um, but I just started having a burden for the country, and I started looking around. I said, God, our country's on life support, and doesn't anybody else see it? I felt like I was the only one. And so I just really started praying. I said, God, I need you. I need to do something. I need to be able to be involved. I need to do something. And about this was like February, March of 21, after the rally, and God led me to a group that I currently am involved in, Lycoming County Patriots. It's an incredible patriot group for Lycoming County. We're very
Yes.
involved locally in government. I don't want to say politics. We're very involved locally in government and other activities in the community. And when I found out about them, the first meeting I went to, I didn't know a soul, and I kind of fought God, and I said, Lord, I don't know anybody. How am I going to, I just don't feel comfortable. I mean, God's pushed me way out of my comfort zone over the past 4 years, and and finally I decided, I thought, well, I'm not going to meet anybody if I don't go. So I finally got up enough courage to walk into the meeting, and I hadn't talked to anybody. I just walked in the room, and I just knew I was home. It was just like I just knew I had found what I was looking for, and I knew that at some point I would be able to get involved doing something. And so, probably in September or the fall of that year, they started putting guys at Lewisburg, USP. I live about 30 minutes from
Right.
Lewisburg,
Right.
and all of a sudden I realized that maybe that's where I needed to be. And so through a couple phone calls of somebody with our Patriot group who knew somebody else who knew somebody else, um, they connected me with um, Tammy Jackson, who is Brian Jackson's wife. He was at Lewisburg at the time. She was coming up for visits, and she started a vigil up here. And I found out about it, and I actually went to the first one, and I told her, I said, Tammy, I said, there's no reason for you to be staying in a hotel in Lewisburg. I said, you can stay with me. I'm 30 minutes up the road. So she stayed with me every weekend for about 6 months. And I went to the vigil every Friday night. She ran it every Friday night. And it was just, I was just there. I knew I was where I was supposed to be. At church, I do a lot of dancing and flags during praise and worship. And so
Very good.
a lot of times, Tammy was playing Christian contemporary music. And so I would just grab a US flag and I would just dance and just do flag routines that I'd, kind of put together sort of on how I felt at the moment. And it was just a really awesome experience. And at that point, guys from anywhere in the BOP in the country were allowed to call in vigils. And by the time you all got to Allenwood, the BOP considered that a three-way call, and so they really shut it down. They threatened to
Wow.
enhance different charges, add points, all of that kind of stuff. And so a lot of the
Wow.
calls outside, except from DC or counties, they just sort of evaporated because nobody wanted, to jeopardize their overall time and sentencing and all of that. And
Right.
so we just kind of lost. I don't want to say lost contact with a lot of people, but I'm sure from your side you kind of felt like you'd been forgotten. We just weren't able to contact you. We couldn't call. You guys couldn't call in, and so probably about 6 months in, Tammy found out and Brian found out that he was being shipped back to DC. And a couple weeks before he was to leave, she started letting me take some of the phone calls coming in from Lewisburg, and that was kind of cool. I thought, that's pretty
Okay.
cool. And then the Friday night before he was to leave Monday or Tuesday. She looked at me. She said, "Now you take this over." And I said, "No." I said, "I can't." I said, I don't know how to do it." I said, "I can't talk in front of the camera." I said, "I'm just happy just being here and waving a flag and just being showing support." And she said, "You can do it." So she loaded all of her equipment up in my
Man.
car, and I come home and I'm having one of these Moses moments, Lord, I can't speak right, I can't do this, can't do that. And so I just really started praying about it, and just really felt like this was a door God was opening for me to stay
Amen.
involved. And so I started doing the J6 vigils for Lewisburg. Did them for about 2 years. The most recent one I did was on the 18th of January. Dedicated most of the program to guys who had been in Lewisburg. Some are out, some are not, and read some comments from some of them, and it was a pretty cool vigil. Going forward with that, I'm not sure where God's taken that. I'm not sure. I have had a couple people say you can't quit it, you can't stop it. You've connected with too many people. You've got too many people. You're part of the J6 community. They said you can't stop it. So I'm just really praying about that. And the guy who did my live stream for me, he and I are praying about that to see what God wants to do in the future. I kind of feel like God's going to have us keep it going, different format, but still reaching out
Right.
to everybody that we've gotten to know and some we don't know yet. So that's kind of how I got involved at that point with our Patriot group. Everybody started being aware or more aware of what was happening to protesters, and the fact that you all were being arrested and unconstitutionally and unlawfully detained and denied due process and all of that. And so through no fault of my own, I was designated to be the J6 liaison for our group. And so then I really had to start to dig, and so I started writing to guys and just finding out things about them, and just
I think you finally got a hold of Tony Lamada,
what.
correct? So I think you finally got a hold
Well,
of
that
Tony
was that
Lamada,
was that
correct?
was after you guys were in Lewisburg. I didn't know him till like, I don't know, a couple weeks before you guys got out. This goes back,
Wow,
a
wow,
couple years, but I got to know a number of the
wow.
guys who are in Lewisburg, and I've maintained those relationships. And then I've got, created new ones from guys who are in DC who were calling my vigil. And it's just phenomenal. The people that I've met, the families that I've met. Um, God so deeply bonded me with all of you guys and with your families and with this community. I'll never be the same. I will never be the same. And I just know that I'm a part of this forever. And so I just kind of kept doing what I had been doing, what I thought to do, and some of the other things that I did that I've done with the support of our group. I ran for school board and won my election for school board. So I'm a school board
Wow.
member right now, and just have
Very important. Very
I
important.
just have tried to stay active in the community, whatever I can do, and be supportive and that type of thing. The group that I belong to is just incredible, and they just love all of you guys, um, and they can't say enough about their gratitude for the stand all you guys took for us, and it's our way of giving
Yeah,
back.
it means a great deal,
What?
Tina.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to say that it means such a great time. It means such a great deal to us because I'm sure, Aiden, you can relate to this. I mean, yeah, it feels like the world
For sure,
keeps
for sure.
spinning. You know what I mean? It keeps like everything, is moving on without you.
Yeah.
You don't know if anybody's thinking about it or if work's being done. And, you're kind of just sitting there. And Aiden, you having a great bulk of time, going through
Yeah.
this thought process. Aiden, I want to go back to that Saturday, leading up to us meeting with Tina. When we got that call up to R&D,
Mm.
what was kind of going through your mind at that time?
Um. uh. That that is a good question. Uh. Oh my God! Like this is actually happening, right? After 2.5 years,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you with prison, like you think in terms of your date, right? So your the entire process is passing your times, trying to speed it up in some ways, and uh and so you kind of like disassociate from
Mhm.
the day you're in.
Right,
You don't really get excited about a lot, right? And when we got called up over the intercom, it just like I felt
Mhm.
alive. Like I felt alive again. Like we're getting something. You know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
some hope, right? Because the weeks before, we there was nothing definite about the pardons, and especially about the violent
right.
offenses, right? And JD
Yeah.
Vance saying that violent offenders shouldn't get pardons.
That,
I
that,
mean
that was
that
that was
was
the wrong thing for him
pretty
to say.
that 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 was it was hard to hear, right? So in prison, you're kind of in a vacuum, right? You're not. We had Fox News and CNN, and so you're not really, so really nothing, right? I like Fox News, but it's
But you got the
pretty
sports, yeah.
limited, and it's news, so
Right.
they're not really covering the January 6th stuff. So it was really hard to gauge where we were at, and so when I heard it, I thought maybe we'd get some news like in the days following. I didn't realistically expect immediate release, right? Um, it was incredible, incredible.
Yeah, and I know, we're going through this back and forth, like, and I'm trying to encourage you, like, look,
And
man, it's gonna happen. It's gonna
yeah,
happen. Like,
yeah,
don't
yeah.
worry, it's gonna
Right.
happen.
Yeah,
And you're like,
I'm
no,
not. I
I don't
mean,
know, I don't know.
like,
But
like
I'm so
besides
glad that
the
we
yeah,
shared that, though.
yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. I was gonna say, like, besides the 2.5, you know, I, besides the 2.5 years in prison, and the besides all this, I'm not someone that gets really excited, right? So, you know, Ray's like a super, you're a super, positive person, right? And so, you know, you tell me like we're getting out soon, and I think about it, but I tried to just be in the day, right?
Yeah.
Because there's been so many disappointments,
Right.
right? Um, in every direction, right? Um, it's been hard. So to have that sort of faith, um, that sort of confidence, it was hard, but I mean, yeah, it was incredible. I mean,
Right, because the
the best
experience is
day of my
very
life. Yeah,
numbing. It's very numbing, and it's very
yeah,
it kind of deteriorates the brain a little bit because of the echo chamber
yeah,
of, what we call criminal thinking that goes along in
yeah.
it. But and it also speaks to another larger issue, which I'm also going to be having some future episodes on, is that the Bureau of Prisons obviously needs to be
Yeah.
reformed in such a manner
hundred
that it doesn't
percent.
even make sense. But as someone going through that experience, Aiden, on several years, which is no easy endeavor. I commend
Yeah,
you for your strength, and I'm proud of you in a sense that you endured this. And one thing that is big about you, Aiden, that I'm really appreciative of, is that you understand what your moment was in that time. I agree with Tina that
right,
this was obviously provoked upon a crowd. This was obviously um, done and orchestrated in a manner to get a reaction such as that. Um, and it's unfortunate, but at the same time, I stand firm in that resolve that this is our duty. This is the point of our
100%.
Constitution, that when the government is out of bounds and out of control, it's the American citizen's job to step up. And this has happened throughout the course of
Right,
our history, and this is why it's so important and such a big deal now, especially for so many patriots like ourselves, to get out there and advocate and to get the word out to say, hey, look, when there's something being done wrong, especially corruptly and criminally, it's our job as
right,
citizens, nobody else, nobody else. It's
right,
our job as citizens to take matters into our hands in a sense and say, look, enough is enough. And that's what the
right,
2024 election was all
Yeah.
about. Remember, the popular vote, all swing states, um, everything that Trump won, that was the answer. That was the truth. And that was the resolve that Americans said, look, we are over it. And
mm,
so it was vindicating to see America step up
yeah,
in that way. And like you, Aiden, I'm optimistic. I'm thinking it's going to be, this, that. I'm like, look. So when we got called up there, Aiden,
you
and
were
the
right.
first thing
Yeah,
the lieutenant says is, "Look, guys, we're big fans." I knew. I was
Yeah,
like,
they
yeah,
"Okay,
were.
he's."
yeah,
I
yeah,
was like, "Man, he's going to
yeah,
make sure we get
Yeah.
out of here."
yeah,
When we heard that,
yeah,
but it was a moment of joy for all of us. I mean, I couldn't explain it. And Tina, just to bring you back in here, because as we're sitting in here, they call us up there
Yeah.
midday. They always do a count around 4 o'clock on the compound. So everybody's joking with us, and or at least joking with me. Oh, Ray, you're not going anywhere. You might as well sit down. You're not blah 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 going through the whole
Uh,
spiel. So it went from that conversation to, Ray, you're not going anywhere, to, oh, Ray, let me get your sweatpants. Oh, Ray, let me get your
Let me help
toothbrush.
you
Let me get
pack.
your
exactly, exactly. I,
so it
yeah,
was it was funny in that sense.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
so
had, yeah.
go ahead, Aiden.
I was gonna say, they announced my name and the name of another January Sixer, and almost immediately, almost like the whole unit like got into a crowd around us, and they were hugging us, just like showing us like lots of love and
Yep.
support. Like there's a lot of good people in there. and they were,
Believe it or not, Tina, you would be
they
surprised,
were
Tina. Believe it or
they were
not,
good.
there's a
Yeah,
lot of support for Donald Trump
Yep.
throughout the BOP in terms of the inmates, particularly Black
Mm-hmm.
Americans, which it
it's
was
bad.
great to see. A lot of people understand what Trump is trying to do. They're hoping Trump gets things done at the DOJ and the
Mm-hmm.
BOP and the FBI. So a lot of these men that are incarcerated right now on perhaps even more trivial things than
Right.
us can get
Yeah.
out of there. And I hope Trump can bring that into the forefront as well. So, but to continue on, we get the call up. They get us one of the best meals I've ever had
Yeah,
on the
heard about that.
compound while we're sitting there. 3 pieces of
Yeah.
Yep.
jumbo chicken. It was great. So they did a good job there. But but still there's that sense of
Yeah.
angst, right? Because we're waiting on
Yep.
paperwork to come through. We're trying to coordinate between with you on what everything's going. The lieutenants, even for as a solid job that they did to make sure our
Yep.
transition was good, but they also they weren't really clear
Right.
on kind of what they
Yeah.
needed to do as well. But Tina, you played a huge role in that to let even the people on the
Yeah.
compound know, like, hey, look, we're here.
Yeah.
We're making sure that they are out of there clear and safe. So we had that little bit of reassurance through you, ma'am, and thank you so much for that because we
You're
weren't too
welcome.
sure. We were thinking like, oh, they're just going to take us back to the special
Yeah.
housing unit. We're going to
Yeah.
get stuck here, blah blah blah. And let me say for myself personally, I'm way in Virginia. Aiden down in North
Yeah.
Carolina, we really don't know what's going on. We don't know if we're going to get a
Right.
bus ticket, if they're
Exactly.
going
Right.
to,
Yeah.
like, we had no clue, ma'am. You were such a big deal. So as we're sitting in the lobby, we finally got word from you through another J6er,
Yep.
Tony Lamada, that you're pulling back around, and we're just sitting in the lobby, just peering at, piercing
Yeah.
out of the window for some
Yeah.
headlights. It's in the middle of the night, it's
Right.
dark, and we're just like, who's that? Oh no, it's just another cop car. Oh, who's that? And and finally we see like the three or
Yep.
four
Yep.
cars pulling around, and we're like, yep, that's them. And it was just like, all right,
Yep.
let's go. And I'm not ashamed to say it. I was very happy to get up out of
Oh,
there.
you were.
See you later, Allenwood. We're gone. And but Tina, it was so big for you and big for me. Aiden, I'm sure you can agree in that moment, right?
100%. 100%. Yeah.
You want me
So
to pick up the
Tina,
narrative?
what
You
was
want
it
me to pick
like
up
for
the narrative at
you
this
in that
point?
moment? I mean, all the work you've
Okay.
done, how did it feel for
God.
you?
Well, I'll back up a little bit. Aiden, you had made a comment about you guys were in a vacuum and you didn't really know what was going on, and from out here,
Yeah.
I knew because I was working with Suzanne Musk, um, and that's I'll get into that in a minute. Um,
Yeah, and thank you,
oh my
Suzanne, for
God,
all the
you
work
guys,
that you've
she
done. Thank you
she
so
is
much, man.
just
Yeah.
God, she's just phenomenal, just phenomenal, and she's still fighting for the six who are still inside, and
Yes.
and I'll address that at the end, I guess. But I knew just from talking to her and being reassured from her because she kind of had the inside scoop for about a month, and I knew that he was going to sign that pardon sometime on Monday. We were expecting it to be signed when he got in the limousine right after he did his speech. And I don't know what the problem was. There was something with paperwork or something. I don't know, but it didn't really get signed until he got to the Capitol building. And but all of us out here who were really working with Suzanne to make sure that we had every prison covered, federal and county, all the way across the country who were housing J6ers, that they would have at least one person to greet them when they walked out the door. And originally, I really had wanted to go to DC because a lot of the guys that I had been writing to were in DC. I knew them really well. And just I don't know, a couple weeks before, maybe right after Christmas, New Year's, after I got back, because I did a visit to DC over New Year's. Um, all of a sudden, I realized that we had 7 guys in Allenwood, and
Wow.
God put the question to me, what if nobody shows up there? And I said, "Oh God, what
Wow.
if nobody shows up there?" And I said, "I'll go. I'm 25 minutes down the road." And so that's how I ended up at Allenwood. And then I started working with Suzanne. I called her. I said, I emailed her or texted her, and I said, "Do you have anybody in Allenwood?" I said, I'm 25 minutes up the road. I said, I can go to Allenwood. And she called me. She said, "Are you kidding?" She said, "You've got it." And I said, "What?" I said, "I'm just going to drive my car." And she said, "No." She said, "You've got it." She said, "You put it together. You get your volunteers. You establish your contacts inside. However you can do that, do it." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Suzanne, I've never done anything like this before. Never really coordinated stuff. Um, I'm a nurse. I've done home health for years. You always flew by the seat of your pants and didn't do a lot of delegating, so that wasn't a strong suit." And I said, "Okay, Lord, I'll do it." And it was almost like he picked me up and set me to the side and said, "I'll show you how to do it." And he just did it. I mean, it was like no effort.
Wow.
But we knew a couple weeks before that Monday that he was going to sign it that day. And actually, when I got all my team together, I had wanted to live stream it because we thought it was going to be in the afternoon. And so I had a friend come up from Lancaster who had done some live streaming for me for my vigil. And I got um, a man from my church, the state representative for Pennsylvania, who happens to be the state representative for the district that the prison is in. She was there. And we sat outside one of the buildings, I don't know where we were, for about 3 hours Monday afternoon, waiting for you guys to come
Wow.
out. We thought that was the building. We didn't know.
Wow.
And finally, somebody came over to us. It was, I don't know, we got there
Yeah.
about 2:30. We got sort of kicked off the grounds about 5:30. When we sat over at the convenient mart across 15 over the highway for another hour. And one of the disappointing things was my group, my Patriot group, had planned a huge potluck dinner for you guys. And we were going to pick you up about 2:30. I was going to bring you to my house, get everybody kind of
I
settled.
can, yeah.
If you guys want to
Can
take
you hear me?
showers, get showers, whatever, and go over to our group meeting at 4:30 and offer you guys this spread. And it was a big spread, and I really apologize that you guys didn't get any of that. But we
Of
just
course.
have a great
Right.
group,
Right.
and they just love you guys. And so then we went back to the meeting and we ate and we just kind of hung out. I was on the phone for almost continuously for 3 or 4 hours talking to Tony and talking to the lieutenant. And I'll tell you what, I am just so grateful for how he handled the whole situation. I didn't feel intimidated. I didn't feel like he was trying to put me down. And I felt like you did, and this is a very conservative area. Most of the COs over there are probably to be, to
Right.
conservative. And
Right.
couldn't tell you they
Right.
were, but they were pulling for you. And so then I talked to him, and he said, "I have everybody here, and all of you guys had agreed that I would be your point of contact. I only had Tony. I had tried to get mail or letters to you guys around Christmas or right after Christmas. I don't know if you got any of them. I had overnighted some stuff to you guys that week before. I don't know if you got that." And it had, all my information and phone number, address, all that sort of stuff. But then I realized that, for you guys to call me, you would have had to have my number processed through the system, and you didn't have enough time. But anyhow, but Tony somehow he contacted me, and so he was really my point of contact inside. And so then I was talking to the lieutenant, and he told me that all of you guys had agreed to for me to be your point of contact, and that was really humbling for me because you guys didn't know me from anybody, and you were putting blind
Right.
trust in me
Right.
that I knew what I was doing, which I didn't. But that was very humbling for me to know that you guys were just putting yourselves in my hands, and it was just like I've got to do this, and I've got to do it right, and I've got to make sure everything works. And then Lieutenant told me, and I asked him, I said, we had James McGrew over in Medium. I said, don't have any contact with him. I
Right.
said, I have to be his point of contact. And he said, I'll call over and let him know. I thought, whoa. And so that's how I made contact with James McGrew. And he
That's
said,
great. That's
you will
great.
be my,
'Cause we had no idea that he was
yeah,
over there.
he said, you will be my first phone call after the paperwork comes through the fax. And 11:38, my
Great,
phone
great.
rang. It was him. He said, we got the paperwork. He said, they're good to go. We all jumped in our cars and we drove over there and pulled in the parking lot at 12:17. And and this is going to be a bit emotional, I think. All of us got out of our cars and we're just kind of standing around in the parking lot, just kind of waiting, and we weren't sure how whether you guys were actually in the lobby or whether you were back in the building, that they were going to let you come out when they saw us pull up. And I'm just standing there in the parking lot, my eyes glued on this light that's in the lobby. And I saw the door open and everything was backlighted. I didn't see anybody come out, but I knew that you guys had come out. And this is like this memory is like it's like a negative snapshot in my mind. I just more sensed than saw you guys coming across that grass area in front of the building. And as I watched, you all just slowly came into view. First I saw silhouettes, then I realized that you guys were in gray sweats, and then facial features became more distinct. Then I could see all of you guys. I mean, I could tell that there were 6 guys. And I'll tell you what, I wanted to run across that grass area and just start hugging all you guys. Whether I could or not, so I didn't. And then all of a sudden you guys were in the parking lot and it was just an amazing thing to be able to welcome you
Tina,
guys out of
it's
a situation that should have never happened in the first place. And just to
thank you,
be able
ma'am. Thank you so much. You have no
to,
idea how much it means.
support you guys in that way, and let you guys know that you hadn't been forgotten, that all of us were out here working and doing the best we could for you guys inside. And I know sometimes it probably didn't seem like much, but we really were. And then we just got everybody in the cars because it was freezing cold. It was like 7 degrees outside. And then got you to the hotel, and then on the car on the way over, and I forget who was in my car. Ray, were you in my car? No, you weren't in my car.
I
You
was
were in
in
my
your car.
car.
Yeah, I was with
Aiden,
you.
you weren't in my car, were you?
Me and Tony.
Did you go over with me?
No,
You were in the van,
no.
weren't you?
In
You
the
were in the
van, yeah,
van. And so anyway,
pretty sure.
Ray asked me, he said, is there sheets around anywhere? And I said, yeah. I said, there is. He said, well, one of the guys has been talking about for months, when he gets out, he wants to go to Sheets. I said, we can do that.
Yep.
So we got you to the hotel, got you guys all settled in. And while you guys were doing that, I just really felt like God wanted me to pray for all you guys. And so after you came back out,
Yes.
we got in a big circle and I just prayed for you guys. And that moment was just surreal to me, that we got all of you guys out. And then I'm standing here with you, with fellow Patriots and fellow J6ers that I'm just so incredibly bonded to, that I've never met. And I'm praying for you guys. And it was just an amazing, amazing experience. Just amazing. And if we'd had time, I would have gone
Tina,
around and
it's
laid hands on all of you too, but we didn't have time to do that. But anyhow,
I, and I know as you're going through this, Tina, you probably just there's no way you can know, but just having a human embrace after
oh, I
all that
know.
time, that's
Yep.
not another
Yep,
man,
I
but
know. I know.
to, like, I don't think like it was
I mean,
everything, and we
that's why I
just
wanted
and
to
then
run
you
across the
and
grass
Charlie
area,
and
because
everybody just
that's all I
cried.
wanted to do, is start giving you guys hugs, because I knew you hadn't had that kind of human contact in a long time. And that's
It's
important. That's
Yeah.
important.
it meant a lot, and as we walk out of that, it just obviously meant the world to us, to just say like, wow, we weren't forgotten. Just to be in a situation where you have no idea what's next. Oh, they're just gonna kick us out of here in the cold, and we have no where are we
Yeah.
gonna go? Like Aiden and I are just walking back down the highway. Like I can picture it in my head, just us
I
walking down
know.
the
Also
highway
keep
trying to get
also
somewhere.
keep in mind also keep in
Go ahead,
mind
Aiden.
that we were waiting for
almost
Yeah,
eight
well, so
hours,
were we.
right?
So were we.
Um,
So were we.
yeah, well, we didn't. Well, yeah, um, we didn't know like if you guys were still
Yeah,
there.
I
You know what I
know.
mean?
I
It
know.
was it was
And we
hard.
we didn't know.
I mean, they put us, they just put us in a room and told us to
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind
Really,
of what they
you know?
sort of what we did. I told my team, I said, well, we'll just go back to our Patriot meeting where I said we'll get something to eat. We'll just wait and see what happens. And
Yeah,
it was about 9:30 that I got a call, and I was on the phone with Suzanne and a couple other men in DC and the lieutenant and Tony. We're just like, and some other people I don't even know. And it was about 9:30. I got a call from somebody in DC that said it's a go. He has signed the papers,
It's a go.
and
Wow.
we're just now waiting for
Wow.
them to get faxed all over the country. And so I came out into our meeting room from that phone call, and I grabbed the mic and I just said, I just got a phone call, and I have permission to tell everyone that it's a go, that they're all coming out tonight. We don't know what time, but they're all coming out, and we're going to go get them. And then we
Thank
came back
God.
to my
Amen.
house,
Amen.
and 11:38, my phone rang, and I looked at it and I saw Allenwood Prison. I said, "Guys, this is it. Let's go." And of course, I answered the phone, but it's just like, and the lieutenant said, "We just got it." He said, "They're ready to go. Come get them." And it was just such a
Amen. Amen.
surreal moment because we
yeah,
knew you. We hadn't forgotten you guys. You guys didn't know. You guys just didn't know. And communication is so
yeah,
bad anyway.
exactly.
And it was just our way of just showing you guys that we were still supporting you, we were still standing behind you, and just we're so grateful for the stand that you took for all of us, the price that you guys paid for us, the years of your life you've lost, and it just doesn't seem to scratch the surface of the debt. I can make it personal, the debt that I feel I owe all you guys for being willing to stand and not knowing what was going to happen months down the road. You guys didn't know, and none of us did. And just be able to
Right.
do whatever I could to be there for you guys.
Well, Tina, we are certainly appreciated. Again, Revive Nation, thank you so much for plugging in with us today. Tina McCloy and Aiden Billiard, my great friends, joining us today right here in Washington, D.C. And we're just having a great discussion today, guys. I'm so glad that you're tuning in with us. And just to kind of wrap this up, Tina, Aiden, we're pushing an hour. God bless the both of you. I'm so happy to be on this journey with
Ugh,
you, Aiden, to have some time with you and learning you
Of
and
course.
understanding who you are as a man. Uh, One thing that I've always prided myself and why I started Revive Nation and the Revive Corporation to begin with is because we go through these processes and these circumstances in life that we don't always have the answer for, but I think what's so important for me and for Aiden as well is the bounce back, right? How do we get back? How do we go through the reentry? How do we ingratiate ourselves back into the community, especially for folks like me as a basketball coach, community leader? It's very
yeah,
important. And but this is where I pride myself on because it's not like folks go into situations with intentions of things happening in the way they did that day. But there are great people out there who have suffered a lot. And it's incumbent on the entire J6 community to hold tight, bond with
yep.
one another, and pull everybody up and out and forward. And that's what it's about for me. Aiden, bro, I am so amazed at your strength, and you're already getting back on track.
That's
And I
awesome.
told you when we were lifting weights that
Yeah,
day, I said, you're going to be fine, brother. I'm looking at you. you're gonna make it happen. Aiden, where are you at now? How are you feeling today? What's next for you? And then Tina, we're gonna close out with just what has God inspired in you, and we're gonna close out on that good note. Aiden, go ahead and take it away.
I am feeling the best I've ever felt, and
Amen,
I'm
brother.
still working
Amen.
on a
Yes.
vision for my future, right, regarding school and what I want to study. But I'm going in the direction of politics for sure.
Amen. Good.
Um, there's a lot to look forward to. Yeah.
And it's important, you will have my support and the ReVibe team. We will be with you lockstep and key. Tina, I feel like there needs to be a little reunion of church and state, right? Unfortunately, our politicians have obviously lost their way, greed, superficial careers, nonsense, and theft of our money, obviously, that we're seeing from USAID. But God is so important. And one thing that I was humbled to kind of go through and experience in myself is understanding like when we put God in the center and remove ourselves out of it, have that consultation with God that you spoke on so eloquently about that. What does that mean to you? What does that mean for all J6ers? How does, quite frankly, our nation move forward under God with that in mind?
Wow. Um, golly, I'm not sure how to answer that. I think a lot of it is our own individual relationships with the Lord, and our focus on what He has for us next to do. Um, and I really believe a lot of you guys are going to be running for offices at some point down the road. About three-quarters of you
Yep.
were believers before going in, before being arrested and incarcerated. And God only strengthened your relationship with Him. I know some of you got everything was stripped away except that, and that's all you had left. And you realized that that was the most important thing you had, and other things you had thought were priorities aren't now. And personally, I'm not sure what my path going forward is with the J6 community. I have a couple ideas, but I know God is not going to separate me from this community. Um, I've just learned so much. God has just changed me so much in the last 3.5, 4 years, um, and just use my faith and my skill sets and my talents for Him going forward as best I can minister and help the J6 community in whatever that looks like, and just continue this journey on. And I'm looking forward to it. Um, but I really believe a lot of you guys are going to be running for offices down the road. I have felt that for a long time. God's going to use you guys to stand. You went through all of this water and fire for a reason to just develop such a strong resolve, no compromise, regardless of what you guys have been through, and put you in a place where you won't compromise and you'll do what's right, even to your own hurt. And I just see that federal, local, and state level, depending on where you guys are, located around the country. Um, but I just see God using you guys that way. I see a lot of you guys going into prison reform, because you guys have walked it now. A lot of you were never in prison before, so it was like you could look at it with fresh eyes, with different
Mhm.
eyes, and you just saw
Right.
everything that wasn't right. And one thing I
Yeah.
feel God's going to have me focus on is I'm not sure how it's going to look, what it's going to look like, but work with the guys who are suing for malpractice and medical neglect and denial of medical services. Um, that's kind of I'm sort of right now like a bulldog, not letting go of of the you know the cat. Um, I'm
Right.
just so angry that you guys are denied medical care. And I know it does. It's just not you guys. It goes further than that. But there's just no excuse
Right.
that you guys had to suffer the way you did. I mean, I know Chris Quaglin walked around for a torn ACL for 8 months, didn't get any medical care. There's a guy in DC that I was communicating with that had spinal cord and vertebrae issues. He didn't get any medical care. It goes on and on and on and on, and there's just no excuse that you guys didn't get it. And so that's kind of what's driving me right now, and I'm just kind of waiting to see how God's going to unfold that, and just you know be available for however God wants to use me going forward with you guys, both of you, the rest of you guys that I helped jailbreak out of Allenwood. That's what I call it. Um, it was a 12:17 a.m. jailbreak, and
Yeah.
just I want to stay in communication with all you guys. I don't want to lose this. I shouldn't have been in Allenwood, but I was. So there's a reason why I was there. And so anytime you guys need anything, just reach out to me. I'll try to reach out to you, and we'll all go through it and go forward together.
Absolutely. And again, from the bottom of my heart, and you spoke with my wife that night, which meant a lot. And I don't, the stress and the toll that it takes on families, especially like mine with 3 young children, not being able to provide, losing everything, losing the ability to protect a household, which is the scariest
You
thing
know,
that a father and a man could go through. Um, it's heartbreaking, and there is a lot more work to
yeah,
be done, and we'll continue in those efforts. But nonetheless, thank you so much, Aiden. Thank you so much, Tina, for joining Revive Nation. We will definitely bring you guys back.
yeah, please,
There's a
please
lot
do,
more to
Ray.
discuss
Yeah,
moving forward, but this was great. Just having a
yes,
little
it was.
reunion today. This is going to be our first episode launching, and but we'll definitely have you guys back on to get into more of the nuts and bolts of how we move forward. So
Yeah,
again, thank you so much, everybody out there in Revive Nation. We'll have links in the description below on how you can continue to support J6ers, how you can support advocacy groups, and how you can get involved. There's a lot of great things that we're doing here at the Revive Corporation to continue these efforts, and I'm sure that like Lycoming County Patriots will have a lot more
yeah,
work
we
down the
will.
road. So we'll have information below. Go
Yep.
ahead, Tina. Did you have something to add to
Yeah, we
that? Go ahead.
will. I mean, we're gearing up for the next election cycle. We're looking for school board members to vote out and replace the ones that we need to get rid of. Um, and we're
Yep.
just,
If it's not like Coleman first, you're out.
but I have a friend who has a real heart for J6 too, and she's kind of a little bit of a different direction, and maybe we could have her on the next time I'm on, and she could share kind of the burden that God's put
Sure.
on her heart. It's more to be able to provide jobs for you guys that you guys can't find work, and I mean,
Absolutely.
you all have to be relocated, but we would love you all here. It's a great place to live in central Pennsylvania. I mean, you guys have been here for 6, 8, 2.5
On
years.
the outside of Allenwood, I'll tell you that. Beautiful
Oh yeah,
mountains, though.
but I know Aiden, you're probably not used to the temperature changes, but we can deal with that. But you know what, Aiden? Just a side note. I
Yeah.
remember when you got shipped out from DC. I was watching the corner vigil that night or Sunday night, and somebody had mentioned that you were probably shipping out the next day. It was two, about 2 years ago. I remember that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so you guys were never forgotten, never forgotten. And if I gave each you guys a hug
We
again, I
appreciate
would,
it,
but I
man.
can't.
We certainly appreciate it. We certainly appreciate it. So thank you so much again. All right, let's get out of here. Aiden, last word.
Last word.
Last word. Take us
Thank
out.
thank you guys for all the support and the love. Thank you, Tina. thank you, Ray,
You're welcome.
for having me on today. And I think there's a lot to look forward
Yeah,
to.
there is. So,
Awesome. All right, ReVibe Nation, we will catch you guys on the next
yes.
one. Tina, Aiden, stay on for me. I have to wrap up
Okay.
some technical things on the back end, so just hold tight, but we'll close it out here. Thank you so much, ReVibe Nation. We'll catch you on the next one.